PopCap, you know them. A juggernaut of casual games from the early 2000s to the 2010s, loved by gamers of all sorts. It's a company that holds a very special place in my heart. And what a repertoire. Bejeweled, Zuma, Peggle, and of course, the classic Plants vs. Zombies. But have you ever wondered about all the other classic games they made and how they all stack up against each other? No? Well, I'm talking about it anyway. Now, I consider classic anything before 2011, since that's when they were bought out by EA. So anything after that, I'm not including in this video. As well as that, I'll be going chronologically based on the release of the retail versions, meaning that some of the games might technically be out of order of when its free Flash version was released, but I want to go off of when it was released officially. And here we are. All of the PopCap games in one folder for me to marathon through for your enjoyment. I was gathering footage with my friends Charlie, Cheryl, and Sam. They gave me loads of aid, helping me get through this pretty tough marathon and keeping the mood high with jokes and energy, even when my brain was starting to melt. Now, without further ado, let's get into reviewing and ranking all classic PopCap games. Let's start with a little history. PopCap was founded in 2000 by 3 people, John Vasey, Brian Fiere, and Jason Kapelka, under the name Sexy Action Cool. They created their first and only game under that name, a PC game known as Foxy Poker. Now, I would include this game in the ranking, but unfortunately the game is considered lost media, and no public downloads remain. In a GDC presentation, one of the founders discussed how it didn't actually do very well. It was a rudimentary game, intended to be a quick and easy revenue source while they worked on their other games. However, they quickly learned that in the adult software business, they couldn't go half sleaze, as the game had no actual nudity.
What we actually learned was that if you're going to be sleazy, you really want to do it all the way. And so if you're going to do a strip poker game, you should probably have some nudity in it.
From there, the 3 decided to rename themselves to PopCap, and began work on their very first game, Bejeweled. Releasing on browsers in November of 2000, the first Bejeweled game is an interesting one. The game was originally for browsers only, under the title Diamond Mine. The developers set out with a goal of making a game that was simple, being a web-based game made in Java. The idea was mainly based off the 1999 JavaScript game called Colors Game, as while they enjoyed the gameplay, they found that they disliked the game's lack of visual flair, sound effects, or animation, along with their dislike of how the game was coded, leading them to use the idea to base their first game off of. After the game's release, they packaged and sold the game as Bejeweled Deluxe, releasing the retail version on May 30th, 2001. The game is simple. There are gems on the screen, and you have to clear them out by swapping gems to make rows of 3 or more. Really, that's about it. I like Hideo Kojima in the background. He's just there, he's watching. The game itself isn't really all that much, but it's interesting to play in retrospect, and when taking into account the rest of PopCap's library, both before and after the EA buyout. There's a classic mode, which simply tasks you to get as far as you can, racking up points until you can't make any more moves. It's not the greatest, and there's not too much of a challenge, which is where the time trial mode comes in. This is where the real fun and stress is, as you are tasked with quickly making matches while time runs out, with each level making the time run down faster and faster until you lose. What's cool is that instead of simply being how much can you do, it keeps it interesting by making matches increase the timer, and bringing the timer up to full will bring you to the next level. It makes it stressful in a really addictive way, where it could have just been a throwaway mode otherwise.
We win the game!
I can't. I literally cannot. I need a hint. I need another hint. I need another hint. Oh! Despite its simple presentation and bare-bones content, the game's core is still addictive and fun, showing how even though the PopCap team were tiny and didn't have much money, they still had fantastic ideas and execution, allowing them to make a fantastic first game. I never played the original game when I was younger, however its tiny resolution and, by today's standards, lack of flair gives it its own charm, making it one that I do quite like. And while I don't see myself coming back to it very often in comparison to the later games, it still stands on its own, making it a very good first game for the boys at PopCap. Good job, developers from 23 years ago. Honestly, it reminds me a lot of the pilot of a TV show like South Park or The Simpsons. Because of how much better they do it later down the line, there's not much reason to go back aside from seeing where it all began. Since there isn't much competition, I'm of course putting it at the very top of my ranking. While it'll be going down on the list as we go on, its charm and quality will keep it as the special game that launched a huge legacy. Bejeweled went on to be ported an insane amount of times, making its way to a staggering 12 platforms, including Flash, Windows, Mac OS, BlackBerry PDA, Palm OS, Windows Mobile, Xbox, Safari, iOS, Java Phone, the ClickWheel iPods, and even released on a plug-and-play like Jack Specific. This game turned out to be absolutely massive, getting 7 sequels since its original release, and being inducted into the Video Game Hall of Fame. That's some good accolades for the simple little gem matching game, and I, for one, couldn't be happier. From there, they started working on the next game on our list. Next game on the list is Alchemy, releasing the 29th of August 2001, just under 3 months after the release of the deluxe edition of their first game, and the game to start the tradition of giving a nice little greeting to the player when opening the game.
Welcome to Alchemy.
The gameplay consists of filling out a board with alchemical signs, randomly given to you one by one. They must be placed adjacent to another one, with the catch being that to place it down it has to be the same color or symbol. This gets tricky once you start getting into situations where you need to put a symbol next to 2 other ones, where it needs to fill both of its criteria to be placed down. This offers a surprising amount of depth to a game that upon first glance just seemed like a nothing game where you press the mouse button randomly. It had me surprisingly hooked for a good amount of time, making me think a lot more than I expected, which is a quality shared by the best PopCap games. The presentation is much better than Bejeweled, as we have a full main menu, multiple difficulties, multiple modes, etc, etc. It definitely still has the old school charm that I loved Bejeweled for, and its crusty visuals, bit crush sound, and classic 640 by 480 resolution really gives it a nostalgic vibe for a game I hadn't ever actually played. It was a game that made me want to come back for more, as it really did become super fun once I understood it. However, it doesn't have the immediate, understandable simplicity of Bejeweled. Bejeweled is so easy to pick up and play, no matter how much time you have in video games. Alchemy, on the other hand, has a lot of reading, and you have to play around with it for a bit before you understand how it actually works. Because of this, I'm gonna have to put Alchemy below Bejeweled, but that doesn't mean it's bad. It has a lot of qualities that I like, but for a PopCap game, let's just say that I understand why we're not living in the timeline where Alchemy is the game that got 12 ports and 7 sequels. I can always dream, though. Sadly, Alchemy didn't get quite as much fanfare as Bejeweled, never getting a sequel or much of a place in video game history, not having much notoriety or even any ports past its conversion to the deluxe edition. At the very least, it's still available on digital stores, unlike some other PopCap games.
Welcome to 7 Seas.
Our third game on the list is 7 Seas, which is a weird one for sure. You are a little ship in the middle, and there are other pirates trying to take you down by charting a path directly towards you. Your goal is to move in such a way so that you can take care of the ships, either by shooting them when they're to the size of your ship, or making them crash into islands and shipwrecks. Once you get the hang of it, it's actually pretty addictive. That is, once you get the hang of it. I spent the first 5 minutes getting crashed into, while passing the level since all the enemies crashed into me. Though, once I understood what was going on, I was pretty impressed by how much it made sense, and how it took advantage of its own simple AI to add to the depth. Basically, the normal ships will try to make a direct path to you, no matter what. Island in the way? It'll crash into it just to get closer to you. Its next move is right into the path of your cannonball? No worries. Other shipwrecks that died in the exact same way? Not their problem. It's interesting to play around their stupidity to take out all the ships before they take you out. Not to mention, it's endlessly hilarious to watch ships crash into things. There are other gameplay modifiers, like the red ships, which play a bit smarter, avoiding obstacles, meaning you have to take them out with your cannons and escape into the wormhole whirlpools to be safe. There's also a dopey little dragon. No relevance to the script, but he's important to me. Then there's the music. is rough. Where Bejeweled had a groovy soundtrack that wasn't too bad, 7 Seas has a boring as hell 10-second loop of a MIDI-fied sea shanty. However, that's really my only complaint. It's deceptively simple, and really does take advantage of non-complex AI coding to achieve a depth of strategy I didn't see coming. Honestly, I'm sort of in love with how it does that. For its placement, I had a really hard time deciding if it was better or worse than the original Bejeweled. For one, Bejeweled is a timeless classic and will continue to hold up for generations to come. You can't really beat Bejeweled, can you? But on the other hand, I'm much more impressed with how clever 7 Seas is, both in design and programming. For posterity's sake, I'm gonna put it under Bejeweled. It's really, really good, but I feel like it's not as iconic as Bejeweled. But silly little fella will always be at the top of my list.
Welcome to Dynamite.
The next game we're looking at is the very strange Dynamite. Dynamite is a game that is not one of my favorites. Gameplay involves shooting eggs towards the top of the screen to make matches of 3 or more to make the eggs fall. It really is just bust a move with dinosaurs. There are some extra mechanics such as power-ups and a bird carrying the best soundbite in the game,
The worldie's coming.
who adds another color of egg if you don't shoot him down fast enough. Aside from that, while the game has a plethora of modes, something just doesn't click for me in it. It's easily understood like the greats, but really doesn't hook me like I thought it would.
Hold on, you remember the monkey that you could like put on your browser back then? It's like a purple monkey.
Bonzi Buddy?
Yeah, this is what it looks like.
I first learned of the game when watching a Grapefruit video, and it looked very fun, but ended up being a lot more stressful than fun because of how tight the playing field is, how large the hitboxes are for the eggs, and how small the screen is. That last point can be chalked up to its low resolution, but if there are technical aspects dragging the game down, it should have been addressed. After all, it's not as if the game was designed for 16:9 aspect ratios then squeezed down to 4:3, it was made with 4:3 monitors in mind. Between writing this portion of the script and editing the video, I looked through the footage I recorded for this game, and I think I can actually pinpoint why it's so disappointing. It's a game that's much more fun to watch than to actually play. It's great to see all the explosions and funny noises and the worldie's coming, but actually playing it is just stressful. For those reasons, I really just have to rate it under Alchemy, as while it does have its own charm and loads of content, I just don't have any desire to go back and continue playing. What a shame. The game after Dynamite is another that I'm a huge fan of. The goal of the game is to get from point A to point B while avoiding the mummy that chases you, one step at a time. The catch is that when you move one space, the mummy moves twice. Because of that, you have to find ways to trap the mummy in the level. It's a game that I enjoyed for the little amount of time I played. It uses a similar AI design that I was so impressed with in 7 Seas, where it takes advantage of simple AI to add more depth to the game. Again, much like 7 Seas, the mummy charts a path directly to you, meaning you can trap it in different corners of the map to progress. It's pretty simple and not too in-depth. I enjoy it though, and it'll go above Dynamite. Whoa, Noah got his own game? That Noah? Seems like it's a prequel to his previous one. Anyways, Noah's Ark is one of the games of all time. You have to match things that are the same and continue with the same animals of the same type to increase your score. It's perfectly fine and is pretty inoffensive. It has this pretty fun mode where you click on the symbols that are connected and they fall down, and you have to clear the screen before it reaches the top, and it's alright. There's a Bejeweled mode, which is fine. This entire game is just sort of inoffensive, and there's not much to say. Sorry, Noah. Maybe we need another biblical storm to get you a better game. Another above Dynamite. This one is a really fun one. Releasing in the early stages of PopCap's legacy, it has that special charm that many of their early games have, with silly drawings, awesome sounds, and some unbelievably captivating gameplay. Your goal is to keep the board clean of atoms by putting them into 2x2 or more grids, and every move adds more atoms unless you make matches. It's super simple and seems like there wouldn't be much strategy, but because of how quickly you get overwhelmed and how important it is to chain matches so you can keep the amount of atoms low, it gets really complicated really quickly. There's no other word to describe this game other than charm, a word whose definition could be applied to the best PopCap games. This is our best so far, going straight to the top. Now we're getting into it. Big Money is PopCap's 8th retail release, and it has to be one of my favorites of this era. It was released on June 4th, 2002, and consists of clicking on 3 or more of one colored symbol, removing it from the board. There are more symbols coming up from the bottom of the screen, and the goal of the game is to fill up a bar to spawn a money bag, where collecting enough of them progresses you to the next level. The gameplay is the first of the PopCap games to really hook me. There's something about the combination of the animations, clicking rapidly, and occasionally hearing the fella go
Big money!
whenever you score a fast combo. It really does capture the early 2000s PopCap style I've come to associate with a lot of happy childhood memories. Graphics are, of course, simple and not much to write home about, but that's why I love them. We have Big Buddy down there at the side of the screen making funny faces and smoking a big ol' cigar. I genuinely think that without his inclusion, that the game wouldn't have nearly as much charm as it ended up having. Sound effects are also incredibly satisfying, dinging as you collect coins, which increases pitch when you go faster. The game also has a pretty funny, low-key, cynical sense of humor I'm a really big fan of. When completing a stage, you get given a rank based off your score, with titles such as the depressing Minimum Wage Slave and Fry Cook. It has a special charm of hating corporations, and while it's not some anti-capitalist piece with a deep message, it definitely gives some of the cynicality that only comes from working a minimum wage job for an extended period of time. This is kind of strange to say, but overall the game might actually be my favorite so far. The first Bejeweled is a great game, but it's more an interesting piece of history rather than a game I have much interest in going back to. Big Money, while not making as much of an impact in gaming history, is much more fun and has that special aesthetic to it. Immediately beating out Atomica, Big Money is going at the top of the list. Next game. Typer Shark is a typing game, and that's it. Nothing crazy, sharks come at you and you have to write what they say. Mavis Beacon is a good teaching tool, Mario Teaches Typing has the silly plumber in it, and Typer Shark has Abyss mode. It's not that it's bad, it just doesn't have much interesting or good about it. Going under Noah's Ark.
What am I looking at?
Welcome
this
to
game.
Mania.
This is so racist.
This one sucks. Review over. -2. Next game. For real though, I kind of have a huge disdain for this game. It's a pretty simple pipe game where you connect one side to the other, blah blah blah, it's fine, but honestly there is an insane amount of racism present, with a big ol' elephant in the room being the talking dragon with a stereotypical Chinese accent, and gameplay surrounding fireworks. It's kind of uncomfortable, and the way the visuals complement the racist voice clearly paints the picture of a game made as a riff on Chinese culture, rather than in respect of it. Pretty much everything else about the game is fine, if not a little whatever, but the previously mentioned racism just leaves a gross taste in my mouth. It's whatever. If you like it, cool, I honestly don't care. Our first stinker of the video, going straight to the bottom of my list. Swing and a miss, PopCap. Alright, to wash the racist taste out of my mouth, we have another one of the all-time greats. Zuma is an absolute banger. Everyone knows what Zuma is. Colored marbles appear in a line, and you have to shoot to create matches of 3 or more to eliminate them before they reach the end of the track. It's simple, fun as hell, and it's really addictive. I will say it feels slightly racist with how it's an appropriation of Mayan / generally tribal culture, but how does that work? I mean, Mayans haven't been alive for a long time, and last I checked, people who live in tribes don't exactly have the ability to see it to give me an answer. I'll just chalk it up as someone else can worry about if it's offensive or not, because that's a question that's a bit too big for me. If we assume it's not racist, I really love the game and its aesthetic. If we assume it is racist, well, fuck.
What is this?
How does nobody know about Zuma?
I mean,
Oh, it's I know this game. It's BTD6.
I'm just gonna say it. This game really tops the charts. It's so fondly remembered for a reason. It's Zuma, man! What else is there to say? Well, there's one thing. As much as I enjoy the game, there's not much reason to go back to it, as it's been done so much better in other games since, even having its own sequel. But for my money, the best Zuma-like game is a game called Sparkle 2. It really is the most in-depth Zuma-like I've played, with a really cool atmosphere and unique gameplay modifiers that sets it apart. Really, I'd rather play that instead of this game. For those reasons, I'm gonna put it underneath Bejeweled.
the game is trying to give you a challenge, and you're calling it a scrub by calling it an easy game.
This game sucks.
So we've already established that you're racist for playing Zuma. So I think you should, if anything, you should like start losing to prove you're not racist.
Alright.
Okay.
Alright, crossing that one off the list. Next one is Feeding Frenzy.
That's it for Zuma.
That's it for Zuma. It's gonna
Yay,
be...
no more
We
racism.
have 1, 2... Aw yeah, Feeding Frenzy Sweep, best game ever made. I love Feeding Frenzy. You move your mouse around and eat fish, and then eat more fish, and you get bigger and eat more fish. Alright, well, it's not that in-depth, but it is still really fun.
Almost got baited.
I got baited by the bait. Double frenzy. I love the
Extra
muffled
life.
voices. Ooh, gimme. Yum.
Whoa.
Sorry.
Sorry, Toots.
Sorry, that was the
Don't
breaks.
call a girl Toots, you're not Bugs Bunny.
This is one of those games that I have a huge soft spot for, even if it's not really all that. It's seriously simple. You eat fish smaller than you to get bigger so you can eat bigger fish. That's pretty much it, and for how simple its gameplay is, it has so many levels. Who wants to play this much Feeding Frenzy? I mean, I do. It's really just Agario, and comes with the same stagnation that game does, but at least Agario is multiplayer, allowing you to beat up little kids for entertainment, meaning you never get bored. Honestly, I can't hate this game. It's so stupid that I get a good laugh just thinking about it, and the silly sound effects and constant fishvore jokes between my friends gives it a special place in my heart. It's also genuinely fun to turn off your brain and clear the screen of smaller fish. That's really all there is to it. The game isn't really all that complex. Here's the thing. I like this game. In fact, I might even love it, but it's just so damn repetitive that I can't put it very high on the list, placing it above Alchemy, but below Zuma. Put this in the video?
Here, I'll put it in general for
Yes. Yes, of course.
I'm so happy.
Okay, this game sucks. It's literally so mid, I can't help it. It's ugly as hell and makes absolutely no sense. Good. Alright. Alright.
Okay, this game sucks. It's amazing.
It sucks, it's amazing. Oh.
Pilot. What? You can't play as Vix?
You have to pick Sprock.
Dude, why
only
is
Vector.
Vix giving us the fuck me eyes?
Vector is high on crack.
I gotta choose Vector in that case. It feels like there's no strategy and no real difficulty. You pick up blocks, make connections of 3, and that's pretty much it. And worst of all, it's just plain boring. You can't create awesome chains using strategy like Big Money or Zuma, nor can you get it through luck like in Bejeweled. It's just straight boring. Touching on the art style again, it looks like a how to draw anime book, with these characters with weird, huge eyes and entirely curved features. They're a damn affront to the eyes to look at, constantly making weird-ass expressions. I just can't look at this game for longer than a minute. Honestly, I'm really sorry if this is a game that you really love, because watching Grapefruit play the game made it seem much better than it turned out to be. I can't even play it for longer than a few minutes without getting both overwhelmed and bored out of my mind. At the very least, it's not as bad as Rocket Mania, but purely because it doesn't have a character with an insanely racist Chinese accent. But that's not really saying much. Right above Rocket Mania. Sadly, this isn't much of a palate cleanser after the disappointing AstroPop. I'm not really all that surprised, as it follows the same naming convention of blank pop. It's a game that just doesn't have much to offer, and I don't really know what to say about it. It's simply boring, and while it could have more to offer later down the line, I lost interest too soon to find out. That's pretty much it, and what sucks the most is that I mistook it for the later, way better game Chuzzle. It sucks that I'm so bored by it. Apathy's a tragedy and boredom's a crime and all that. Sorry if this was your childhood, it's going under Dynamite. Pixelist is another one of the strange PopCap games, but sadly instead of bonkers weird like Bookworm or Big Money, more just boring weird. In a game that I originally assumed was a Picross-like, it's this weird puzzle game where you need to fill in all spaces by throwing them from the top, bottom, and sides of the playing field, and while it has a decent amount of depth and more strategy than a game like AstroPop, it's more just perplexing how it's a full game. It's alright, but nothing really to write home about. It's neither instantly gratifying like Big Money, nor strategically deep like Alchemy. It's fine. It's not even carried by charm or visuals, as it's pretty flat and has visuals akin to clip art rather than a proper, developed art style. There's not much else to say about it, aside from the fact that it's going above Dynamite, but below Alchemy. Like I said, it's an alright game, but being alright isn't really enough when competing against games like Big Money or Feeding Frenzy. Thankfully, it doesn't really have anything abhorrently wrong with it, so it'll probably keep a middling spot. I can't even look into it. Whatever. I hope...
Wow. I think that's all you need to show about the game.
Oh, if I get like malware and or fucking ransomware.
I downloaded a haunted copy of Pixelist, and now I see the Pixelist guy in my room in that corner of my eye. And
Where was this copy of Pixelist found?
it was found in a garage sale. There was a flash drive that had a copy of Pixelist on it, and that was the only thing on it.
It was haunted by Ben Drown.
But whenever I booted it up for the first time, there was a text, like, image thing that was there that it said, "You are now cursed."
Pixelist.exe.
Did you know every copy of Pixelist Deluxe is personalized? This one comes with a virus.
What does that mean from?
I love this game, dude. This is one of those bonkers games that I so want games like Pixelist to be. You take care of an aquarium with aliens attacking and you have to make sure you make enough money to buy 3 parts of an egg. The gameplay itself is simple, but it goes absolutely insane the further you go. This is one of those games that still has quite a big cult following because of its wackiness and deceptively simple fun. You got plenty of different fish, upgrades, allies to help you, etc. It changes almost every level to keep it interesting. And yes, it's a bit, double weird, but hey, if you can look past that, it's a genuine good time and can be quite a bit of fun. Like a lot of these games, not much to say, but for my money, it's going above Bejeweled. And here we are with our first sequel of the video, the much-awaited sequel to Bejeweled. We're getting to a point in PopCap's history where most people knew their games and they began to get a following. Ask your grandma, I'm sure she'll remember. When I was talking about the first Bejeweled being more of an interesting period piece rather than a game I actually want to play, this is why. Bejeweled 2 is so much of the quintessential Bejeweled experience that there's not much reason to go back to the first one. It's the same match 3 gem type game that made the first so addicting, but with some more flair and creature comforts. For one, the game looks much better. It has these beautiful computer generated vistas and mountain ranges that just bring the right amount of relaxation into it. You have way more modes this time, and it seriously makes it feel like much more of a complete game rather than something you play for 5 minutes every once in a while. This might take over Big Money as the top game, as while I do really love that game, and everything in the top spots, Bejeweled 2 really is the quintessential casual game. It can either be slow and methodical or fast and stressful depending on what the player wants, meaning that it can be approached by a hardcore gamer or a first timer, and both will have a lot of fun. That's the magic of casual games. For all those reasons and much, much more, Bejeweled 2 is going at the top of the list. Sometime in 2005, after the release of Bejeweled 2, PopCap actually acquired the studio Sprout Games, the developer of some of the games published by PopCap, specifically Feeding Frenzy. There's pretty much nothing on the company online, aside from one source which decided to archive a very short history on them. They were founded in and made their first game in 2003, a simple Windows game called Word Harmony, made AstroPop and Feeding Frenzy in 2004, and then made our upcoming game in 2005 before being bought out. Pretty much their only legacy is the fact that they worked with and were later acquired by PopCap. Speaking of our next game, and we have another Pixelist. Coming off of the amazing Bejeweled 2 and Sprout Games' previous banger, Feeding Frenzy, we have one of those PopCap games that are really just nothing. I don't even really know what you do in this game. You click on people's orders and then click on the corresponding pizza restaurant. You fill up your tip jar and proceed to the next level. It seriously is just a nothing game, and when I played it for the first time to get footage, me and my friends were so completely flabbergasted as to what the hell was the point of the game.
Pizza frenzy. Pizza frenzy.
Nah, bro, what is that fucking character design, dude?
You know, at least it's not fucking AstroPop.
I know.
Look how fucking far apart his eyes are. What is this?
I don't know why this game exists, and honestly, I don't know why I should care. Below AstroPop, but above Rocket Mania. I'd rather be frustrated than bored to tears. Oh, now this game is badass! That's pretty much all there is to say about this game, at least on the surface. It has these strange anti-communist themes and has a picture of what I think is Lenin in the intro. As weird as the framing device is, it's actually just a pretty solid shoot 'em up, with you shooting down waves upon waves of helicopters and planes that are trying to take you down, avoiding friendly ships that drop power-ups, and getting upgrades between levels. The upgrade system is actually one I quite enjoy, where instead of the upgrades being one-time use abilities that are just instant win buttons, they remind me a lot of Isaac, where upgrades are more integral to gameplay and affect your normal shot. It's pretty addictive and is something I wouldn't mind going back to from time to time. Not much else to say, other than if you're a fan of shmups and want a touch of that PopCap weirdness, give this game a go. Going above Feeding Frenzy. Our next game is Chuzzle, being one that I kind of hate and love. On one hand, it's adorable. I mean, look at these little things. They're so dang cute! They even look at your cursor and make noises when they hit the walls, or get all dizzy if you whack them around. It's so darn cute. And the music! Probably one of the grooviest game OSTs I've heard in a good while. I really think this is where PopCap solidified their penchant for amazing music in their games. On the other hand, it's a bit of a forgettable romp.
Guzzling down the Chuzzle.
It's the same match 3 game as Bejeweled with a bit of a twist, that being that you can only move them by moving the entire row or column to get them to match. It's pretty neat, but past that little ooh moment, it's not the most in-depth game, nor does it have the same staying power as the Bejeweled games. There is some cool gameplay modifiers, such as the large Chuzzles or the Chuzzles that are locked, both being cool extra challenges to the game. What's so frustrating about this game is that it's really well made, it's adorable, the music is amazing, but it just lacks some of that heart that you will find in the best PopCap games. It's a cool idea that places a twist on the match 3 formula, but it feels a lot like a game trying to jump on the same bandwagon as Bejeweled. But I wish it did its own thing, rather than just try to be Bejeweled but again. Because of that, I can't put it as high on the list as I would have wanted. Ironically, it's gonna go above the first Bejeweled.
jeez.
On the desk!
The fingers! No!
Ew! What the
Our next game is Bonnie's Bookstore, and this game is definitely a fever dream, in all the worst ways. It's ugly and kind of creepy and not really all that fun. In fact, the most amount of fun I had while recording footage was making fun of it with my friends.
Ladies, and gentlemen. Line. Tar. Top right. Tar. It was me again.
It's pretty much what you'd expect Bookworm Adventures to be, except with a fraction of that game's charm or fun. It's just boring, plain and simple.
Bad.
Elmer.
Library. Library. This game sucks.
During the script writing process, I thought about why I liked Bookworm's gameplay despite it really being just word search with some sprinkles put on top. Disregarding that game's charm and flair, even the gameplay itself is much more interesting, as you have a small set of letters to choose from, whereas Bonnie's Bookstore gives you a whole board of letters, while limiting it down to only letters that are adjacent to your current one. It's not nearly as engaging on a gameplay, visual, or audio level. There's not anything in this game that's better than Bookworm, or even other kinds of word search activities. I'd rather do the ICE word search.
Yeah, that's my dad.
Gap. Gape. 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 Gape.
But is it worse than Rocket Mania? I don't know. That game is pretty bad. I'll say it goes above Rocket Mania because at the very least, it doesn't have uncomfortable racist elements. But you're on thin ice. Bonnie. Next game.
What? But we were having so much fun.
No!
Yeah, I think you were having fun, Charlie. You can play this game on your own. I was not having fun. I was looking up how to make cum or dick or pussy or something like that.
Nice.
I couldn't find any of that.
Aw yeah, Feeding Frenzy 2. Oh my god, I love Feeding Frenzy 2 so much. Feeding Frenzy 2, sweet, best game ever made. Oh my god, it's so good. I love Feeding Frenzy 2. It's so goddamn good. Amazing. Oh my god, it's the second coming so much it saved my marriage. What do you mean it's the same game? Hammerheads? I don't remember this game. Oh, it's whack-a-mole. What is there even to say about this game? You got gnomes. You click on them. Great. What material do I even have here? It's even less interesting than its real-life counterpart, because at least then you're moving around a lot. You know, I don't actually want to review this game. Can I talk about something else instead? I'm gonna talk about something else. How about, you guys play Isaac? You know, the Stitches item is really underrated. It lets you switch places with it and telefrag whoever's on the other side of it. But the key part I want to talk about is that it gives you a little bit of invincibility when you teleport, meaning that if you huddle it against a curse room and hold right, you can go in before the iframes are up and not take damage. Pretty cool, right? It can be done both ways, meaning that for the health conscious, you can interact with curse rooms without flight or secret rooms. What was I talking about? Right. Gnome game. Goes above Pizza Frenzy, and the Stitches item goes above Big Money. Wait, there's a game here?
Welcome to Bookworm Adventures.
Bookworm is strange. On one hand, it's a very fun word matching game, fusing casual word search gameplay with more creative RPG and adventure elements. On the other hand, it's the story of a psychopathic worm with no emotions who wants to destroy everything in its path, who doesn't care about destroying families, cities, or entire civilizations, using words to slaughter his foes. He doesn't stop at women, children, or the sick, and he cannot die. He will not rest until everything in this world is at his heel.
Lingo, lust, all gone, with gluttony soon to follow. Your kind know nothing but hunger, and now all that remains is perfect hatred.
Let's start from the beginning. Bookworm is strange. It's a game about matching words together from a grid of letters to make it through levels. You use those words to attack enemies in front of you, needing to defeat your opponent before they defeat you. You gain upgrades, level up, and find mystical artifacts to help you along your journey in saving the princess. There aren't really any words to describe Bookworm adventures that aren't just synonyms for weird. That's really the best way to say it, because it's so strange that I can't justify it. Despite that, however, the game is surprisingly fun. It's sort of like a really good edutainment game, where there are educational aspects that are disguised as game things. In this case, there's a whole bunch of RPG elements that keep you entertained and keep the gameplay loop fresh. You progress from enemy to enemy, see the dialogue and quips, and move between worlds. It really has way more flair to it than any casual word search / puzzle game should, and that's what really makes it special. It's something you can half zone out to and play between rounds of other games or other responsibilities. Because of that, it really is a quintessential casual game, and even can be entertaining enough with friends, as you all giggle at how goofy the lines are and work together to find the longest word combinations. Now comes the question of where to rank it. It's better than many games before it, especially the game that came out right before it, and is really a great time. I'm gonna put it under Bejeweled 2, making it our second best game so far. Our next game is Peggle, and this is the one I was excited to talk about. An absolute classic of PopCap, with its deceptively simple gameplay and heaps of charm giving it a huge place in the hearts of anyone who was a fan of PopCap back in the day. It's just one of those PopCap games that just makes sense. It's casual and easy to understand, being based off of pachinko machines, while being incredibly in-depth and hard to master. There's countless text to learn, and so much content to sink your teeth into. The sound effects when you shoot a ball or hit a peg gives me the same sensation as the sounds in Big Money or the Bejeweled games, where they make you want to continue it because of the dopamine rush it gives. The music is a perfect backdrop to the casual gameplay, being groovy and low-key, before exploding into the wonderful extreme fever music. The use of classical music is inspired, making the game feel classy and empowering, hitting you with great songs like a pumped-up versions of Beethoven's Ode to Joy. The characters and art style is the most early 2010s Flash look you can get, and is incredibly nostalgic to me. The game is firing on all fronts. 55 campaign levels with 10 different characters to play, not enough for you? Try 75 challenge levels, as well as a duel mode and a quick play mode. This game is humongous, all contained in this deceptively tiny 18 megabyte executable. I can't stop singing the praises of this game. It's genuinely incredible, and is one of those games like Bejeweled or Bookworm that genuinely will be played for generations to come, in one form or another. This is shooting straight to the top of the list, as it's my favorite game so far. I wouldn't necessarily say it's better than Bejeweled 2, and whether or not it or Peggle is better is probably gonna change from day to day, or what I played last. Right now though, it's the best of the best. Oh, one last thing. If you're hankering for some Peggle action and you don't feel like giving mega corporations your money, might I suggest the indie roguelike Pegglin? It's a roguelike built off the same gameplay, and it really was one of the things that got me re-interested in Peggle. And one more detour, we're looking at a pretty strange acquisition. In 2007, before the release of our next game, PopCap acquired the studio Retro 64, a two-man studio made up of Michael Boe and Juraj Mulkak. The studio had existed for a good while, with Boe founding the company in 2001 and making a few casual games, before they were gobbled up by PopCap and only made 2 games under them. The first is our next game, Venice, which you'll see how much I, love it. Another PopCap game called The Wizard's Pen, which I skipped, since it's just a hidden object game. And then, not doing anything before supposedly going solo in 2011. From there, I can't really find anything on the studio, as it doesn't seem to really have done anything after 2011. In fact, the only two things the two members did in connection to PopCap was Wizard's Pen, Venice, and a single special thanks for Molcak on Bejeweled Twist. Thankfully, the two seem to still be doing fine, with Molcak still making some pretty impressive art for a variety of projects, and Boe in jail for drug possession? I don't think it's the same guy. He doesn't seem like he has any internet presence aside from one tweet on his Twitter, which is a post that is very clearly a malicious link, seemingly due to him being hacked. But on to our next game. Next game on the list is sadly a letdown in comparison to the mastery of the previous. This is one of the games on our list not actually developed by PopCap, but instead by the aforementioned PopCap acquisition, Retro64. It's an odd bugger, being this strange experience where you shoot symbols from a boat into slots. It's not really in-depth, aside from some cool combos you can do by shooting the symbol at a higher elevation or bouncing them off platforms. However, it runs into the same problem a lot of PopCap games run into, where it feels like a lot of it happens randomly instead of being calculated, which can be fun, but leaves you feeling unsatisfied. You never really know why something good happens, and while a game like Bejeweled has that same attribute, that game has incredible audio and visual design to back up that random feel while still leaving room for skill. This game is just boring and doesn't leave much of an impression. It's a bit of a shame too. I quite like some of the audio, and the visual of the play area sinking into and rising from the water, but past that there's not much there. Gonna go above AstroPop, but underneath Dynamite. Alright, this game is real. It exists, it's a real product on Steam, you can play it, and there's nothing you can do about it. It was released in 2007 as a promotion for the Orange Box, being Peggle with a bunch of Valve game junk thrown in there. It's strange. The sun is the G-Man, Bjorn has a head crab on him, it is absolutely loaded with firearms, there's Jimmy Lightning being burnt alive by Pyro TF2. It's just absolutely bonkers. It's this strange oddity that captures a piece of gaming history, as a lot of the games being repped are pretty outdated, like the Counter-Strike representation being of Source's Dust 1, alongside other older games like Half-Life 2 and the original Portal. Aside from that, it's just a free Peggle game with 20 levels and Orange Box theming. It's short, it's fun, and it's good for a few laughs. For being just weirdo Peggle, it goes above Chuzzle, but below Insane Aquarium. Hey look, another acquisition! This one was of the game studio Spintop Games, who churned an absolute staggering amount of games for PopCap. Why didn't I include those games on the list? Well, it's all just games that were published by PopCap, and all of them being dinky puzzle or hidden object games. Not really interested in playing 10 games that are virtually the exact same. However, they did co-develop a few of the notable games, or rather, the ports of those games, such as the international versions of Plants vs. Zombies, Zuma's Revenge, and Chuzzle Christmas Edition. Alrighty, they're not too notable, but being a comprehensive list of PopCap, I figured I'd include it anyways. On to the next game. Alright, what's our next game? Oh, Peggle again? Fine. This is the actual sequel to the first Peggle, although it's less of a sequel and more of a level pack. Thankfully though, it has a lot more than you'd expect from a level pack, with a dreams theme going on, showing off each of the Peggle Masters' dreams, like Bjorn being a superhero, Jimmy Lightning being a scientist, etc. There's not much more to say about it other than that being Peggle, but more. Going above Insane Aquarium, but under Bookworm. We're reaching the end of our marathon, and let's hope that our final few games go out on a high note. Alright, nope, this one blows. Impeccable foreshadowing. This game is... Oop, wait, my computer can't run this game. This game is probably one of the biggest jokes of our marathon. It's Bejeweled, but you twist. Oh. There's no actual challenge unless you want to set everything up in advance for a higher score, but why would you bother? There's nothing stopping you from just rotating things over and over until things match. To quantify how mid this game is, just ask yourself, are there more Bejeweled twist games? Thank God. What would have happened if there was? Probably the best thing to come out of this game is the Plants vs. Zombies minigame based on it. Spoilers. Boring. It's not as bad as awful games like Rocket Mania, nor is it as bad as the nothing games like Pizza Frenzy or Hammerheads. I suppose it's better that I dislike this game rather than feeling next to nothing like those two. Gonna go above AstroPop. One final acquisition. This time of a studio with probably the grossest name I've ever seen for a studio. Right behind Goo and Blizzard. This one has a lot less substance, with the acquisition seemingly done to bolster their workforce, as it doesn't really seem like they did much before or after the acquisition. According to what little information I could find on them, they ended up being placed in PopCap's internal development team to work on, quote-unquote, several undisclosed projects. Next game. Now we're talking. Now we are talking. There's no doubt that this is the game you clicked on the video for. This is undoubtedly the most well-known and most beloved PopCap game. Even my friends who I told about this video were all clamoring for where I'd put this game. And where do I rank it? No doubt, all the way at the top. I'm an absolute massive fan of this game, completing it and buying it multiple times on several platforms. As a kid, I had it on every iPod and iPad I could get my hands on. I had it on my childhood PC. I would play the demo online and on school computers. I had it on the PS3. I bought it on my old Steam account and my new Steam account, 100%ing it on my newest phone. In fact, 100%ing the game on basically every single platform I had it on. And that's no different for this most recent time, where during the pandemic, it became my go-to game to play between classes or during breaks at work. If you somehow don't know, it's a game where you have to defend your house from zombies by placing down plants to eliminate them before they get to you. You have to manage your sun, deal with cooldown and destroyed plants, etc. Not only that, but it constantly changes, with every 10 levels being set at a different place in your house, with it starting on your front lawn during the day, moving to night, proceeding to your backyard pool, then being nighttime at your pool with fog rolling in, before getting to the roof. 50 levels of constantly changing and evolving gameplay not enough for you? Try 4 extra modes, each with an insane amount of content. Minigames have wacky variations on gameplay like giving zombies plant heads, having plenty of references to other PopCap games like the Bejeweled level being a clear reference to Bejeweled, Aquarium riffing off of Insane Aquarium, and the aforementioned Bejeweled twist, which, once again, is the best thing that came out of Bejeweled twist. Screw it, here's ranking them all! 7, 8, 8, 7, 10, 6, 8, 10, 9, 7, 7, 10, 6, 7, 8, 10, 8, 9, 7, 10. Puzzle mode has 2 modes within it, each containing a pack of 10 levels, with the first being Vase Breaker, tasking you to break vases to release zombies and plants, forcing you to be strategic with what vases you break, and you have to be quick on your feet to react to what comes out. Then there's my personal favorite mode, iZombie. This one makes you play as the zombies, placing them down to take down cardboard plants. It's simple, with each mission giving you different zombies to choose from. You really have to optimize your zombie placements so you can get more sun, and so that they don't get destroyed before serving their purpose. Then there's the survival mode, the real meat and potatoes of the gameplay, distilling it down to just the main game, and it's incredible. Just goes to show how good the core gameplay is, that you can take away all the connective tissue of the adventure mode and still have a fantastic, captivating experience, not to mention that, like the other modes, survival has an endless option, where you can push the game to its absolute limits, as it launches countless zombies to try to take you down, as you desperately clawed every opportunity, every piece of sun or extra defense to keep yourself alive. And how can I forget Zen Garden? It is the coolest part of this game, being a chill gardening mode where you just grow your plants and get money. Look, it's Stinky the Snail, making an appearance from Insane Aquarium. There's the Tree of Wisdom, who gives you some more hidden information about game mechanics, and how can I forget the plethora of cheat codes and achievements this game has? This game is just absolutely full to the brim with passion, love, care, effort, and genuine fun. It's just the absolute perfect casual game, even more than Bejeweled or Peggle, because it's both super easy to understand and incredibly, incredibly in-depth. You can pick whatever plants to defend your house, or you can strategize to make crazy combos of selections that will defend things in different ways. Whether you're casual or more serious about games, this is one of those rare few that crosses that gap, being beloved by everyone. It's also the perfect game for a PopCap fan, being loaded with tons of references to their other games, like the minigames that are clear references, or the bunch of characters buried under Crazy Dave's backyard, like a Chuzzle, some Bejeweled gems, and oh jeez, Bjorn's skeleton? Look, it's Stinky the Snail! And I haven't even talked about Crazy Dave! What a charming character, and while a lot of that epic random humor is definitely outdated, it's still fun as both a time capsule and an unabashed appreciation of stupid, goofy humor. It's also super moddable, but let's not talk about that. The graphics are charming, with zombies being cartoonishly cute and plants bopping back and forth to the beat. And that score, man! They got Laura Shigihara to make the music, and it is a groovy soundtrack. Come on, Graze the Roof, Loon Boon, Ultimate Battle, Brainiac Maniac, and the mother of all goddamn zombies on your lawn. This soundtrack is iconic, and it is just the best. Not to forget, the designs are absolutely wonderful. Every plant and zombie feels wonderfully handcrafted, from the venerable pea shooter to the silly imitator and cattail, all contained in the brilliant Suburban Almanac. And how about those upgrades? What a brilliant concept to push your defenses even further. Quadruple peas, double sun, auto-tracking needles, and destructive corn mortars. PopCap manages to continually push the limits, bringing this already wonderful gameplay into another dimension. This game is one that I hold really close to my heart. It's in the running for my favorite game of all time, and it's genuinely a marvel of gaming. It didn't take much contemplation to put it at the absolute top of the list, no contest whatsoever.
Welcome to Bookworm Adventures.
Hey, I've seen this one before. This game is pretty sweet, pretty much being just more Bookworm. Much like Bejeweled 2, it's essentially just an update to the original. However, with that game, it's a complete overhaul and the best PopCap game so far. This one is just kinda more Bookworm. That's not a bad thing either. Bookworm is a great game, and I'm sure the people who loved Bookworm at the time got plenty out of this. I'm looking at it from a historical sense, where it's just kind of more of the same. What I can praise, however, is that it retains all the charm and fun from the first game, and might even have a little more charm, with Lex making more cheesy quips. This time he's not as murderous though. Honestly, while it's pretty much the same as the first game, I can't hate it. I was debating putting it a few rungs under the original Bookworm, but honestly, because of the game's stupid charm and Lex's goofy grin, I pretty much gotta put it hand in hand with the original. I'll put it above the first game for consistency's sake, but the two are pretty much at a tie. Well, this game is probably one of the least interesting games on our list. However, I don't think that's really a bad thing. It's the Peggle Knights of Zuma, what Bookworm Adventures 2 is to the original Bookworm. It's just an expansion on the first game rather than a new one. Not much to talk about, but it is much more polished, with a better looking UI, and a little more flair. I'd say it's better than the original game. They're both alright, nothing to really complain about. I'm gonna place it a few spaces higher than the first, making it go above the first Bejeweled.
Welcome back.
And now, we're at the final game of the video. Do we go out with a bang? I'd say so. On the surface, it's more or less just more Bejeweled, but it's probably the most polished form of it. It's fun, it's simple, it's packed full of content, and it's quality. I remember playing this on the PlayStation 3 of all places, and now and then, I loved it all the same. I have to say though, it doesn't feel nearly as special as the second or first game. The first game was a fascinating part of video game history, and the second was the perfect casual experience, meaning that there wasn't much reason for this game to exist. It doesn't do much different aside from some extra modes and being able to run in a higher resolution because of its later release, but there's not much else. Not having much different doesn't make it a bad game, just not as special as the second one. Our final game is going under Atomica and above Heavy Weapon, as it's an amazing game, much like the rest of the games near the top of the list, but misses that special, unique flair the rest have. There are quite a few games that I missed for one reason or another that I believe merit at least some sort of mention. There were some games, such as the Square Enix developed Gyromancer, that weren't really interesting enough for me to put into the video. In fact, that one is just a fantasy-themed spin on Bejeweled Twist, a game I already didn't like. There are games you straight up can't play anymore, like the online or browser exclusive games, their mobile game Unpleasant Horse, or games I don't own the platform for, like the Windows Phone exclusive Bejeweled Live. Most of all, I skipped some games for a lack of interest. As much as I love PopCap and their history, I can't really bring myself to play collections of their games or the 30 different hidden object games that were published by them, and I definitely don't want to play the different versions of Bejeweled over and over. No. You know what? Here, how about we play the Halloween Bejeweled? What about Autumn Bejeweled? Holiday Bejeweled? Kmart Bejeweled? Tyson Chicken Bejeweled? Don't Be Blah Bejeweled? Scoop Away Bejeweled 2? Cat in the Hat Bejeweled? Milk Chocolate Covered Oreos Bejeweled? Never mind. There are some, however, that I'm saving for another time. Specifically the console ports of their games. More specifically, the really strange and crunchy DS ports of their games. But those are for a different time. One where I can properly appreciate them. Let's look into what happened to those founders of PopCap. Jason Kapelka left the company in 2014 to pursue other ventures, including Blue Wizard Digital, launching a tavern in 2011, and serving as a director for the Mysterious Package Company. John Veche also stayed at PopCap until 2011, where he left to pursue nonprofits, working as a board member of grist.org. And finally, Brian Fiedes still works at PopCap, serving as the director of the company. The three may have gone separate ways professionally, but they still made something great together, and still have plenty more to give the world. And now that we're done the entire video, it's time to show off the full ranking of every single classic PopCap game. And starting off at the very bottom of the list, Rocket Mania, Bonnie's Bookstore, Talismania, Pizza Frenzy, Hammerheads, AstroPop, Igglepop, Bejeweled Twist, Venice, Typer Shark, Noah's Ark, Dynamite, Pixelist, Mummy Maze, Alchemy, Feeding Frenzy 2, Feeding Frenzy 1, Zuma, Bejeweled, Zuma's Revenge, Chuzzle, Peggle Extreme, Insane Aquarium, Peggle Knights, Heavy Weapon, Bejeweled 3, Atomica, 7 Seas, Big Money, Bejeweled 2, Peggle, and at the very top, Plants vs. Zombies. And here we are at the end. This video took a long time to make. It was 6 months of my life that went into this. It was more than a month of my life that I spent working on the script and playing through all the games with my friends. At the time of writing this conclusion, I haven't even begun editing. And at the end of the video, I wanted some big conclusion that made that effort worth it. I mean, I started this video in November of 2023. This was 6 months of my life. I thought that maybe reaching into my nostalgia and trying to see if there was something more there, something bigger that I could find. At first, I couldn't. I was sort of ashamed that I couldn't. I spent all that time, and for what? Eventually, after a while of contemplating, I started to think about why we create. PopCap was a massive part of my childhood. They gave me an escape from a life that I wasn't happy with, a life that I wished I wasn't in. I connected with people and shared my passion of gaming with people who otherwise would not have been interested. This massive legacy, consisting of 30+ games, was all just made because a few people came together, looked at the medium of video games, and wanted to make more out of it. I came back to the question of why I put all this effort into this video, and I came to a similar conclusion. I looked at a disparate puddle of nostalgia and wonder, and made something more out of it. I made a monument to parts of my childhood that I love, things that made a confused, scared kid feel just a little more okay. Even if some of the games don't hold up as well as I remembered, I was still able to enjoy those experiences and share them with my friends. That's the purpose for me. And though this marathon and video became tedious at times, it really gave me a newfound appreciation for the medium as a whole. In an industry dominated by games demanding more and more of your time while becoming less and less meaningful, it was a blast of fresh air to be able to play a game for 10 minutes and just be satisfied with it. To have an experience that won't be washed away by the perpetuation of that same experience. To remember something, not as a piece of high art, but as a nice afternoon, a brief respite from work, or a nice moment in an otherwise stressful life. PopCap may have moved on, being purchased by EA to make some bigger games that aren't really my style. They gave me more than enough in their time as an independent games maker, and for that, I thank them. And to you, dear viewer, I thank you for watching through to the end of my labor of love. I really, genuinely just hope you enjoyed. And of course, until next time, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Sunflower. One, two, three. There's a zombie on your lawn. There's a zombie on your lawn. There's a zombie on your lawn. We don't want zombies on our lawn. I know your type, tall, dark, and dead. You wanna bite all the petals off of my head, and then eat the brains of the one who planted me here. I'm just a sunflower, but you need power and entire infantry. You like the taste of brains, we don't like zombies.
I used to play football. Well, don't protect my head.
On his head,
I have a screen door shield.
door shield.
We are the undead.
There's a zombie on your lawn. There's a zombie.
This is fucking addictive.
I think the word you're looking for is insane.
This aquarium
Aquarium
is
Deluxe.
truly insane.
You
Guys shit on Big Money, it is the best game. China.
Holy shit, that's racist.
Oh my god, it's a reference to Rocket Mania. No fucking way.
What is it with PopCap and like?
Slight Chinese racism.
Oh fuck, Bjorn looks weird.
He's got the robe on.
Oh no, he's hot.
Oh no, he's hot.
Oh my god! Walnuts look way too happy.
Enjoying himself.
Like they're just completely content with being turned into fucking bowling balls. You know, I think I'd be happy if I got turned into a bowling ball.
No thoughts, just bowling ball.
Nah, just.
want zombies on our lawn.